Hi there, welcome to a Carlton Witch Ramble. We are going to be going through the energy of the Gold Coast Suns. Let's get straight into it. So, the Gold Coast Suns are another Aries energy team. So, even though they share that same Aries energy as a number of the other teams, they are quite different. So, when we look at the Gold Coast Sun's ego self, it is fiery, it identifies with its self first, and it is a bit of an initiator. It's a bit of a childish kind of energy as well. There's a little bit of immaturity to it, kind of playful, but also it can have that selfishness, and it can also have that little bit of foot stomping to it as well. Now, its emotional style as well, there is this manipulative to self, I don't want to stop and have my feelings, which we often see that with these fiery ego kind of spaces. And communication style as well, very fiery, likes to kind of start shit, doesn't mind having its say. The way that they build relationships is quite direct, and there's almost a bit of daring rebellion to it. They're not the sort of energy team where they're afraid to build new relationships, where they're afraid to be upfront about what they want from you. There is a very direct energy to that, which comes in quite handy because obviously this is an AFL team, this is a footy team. There needs to be some directness to it. We don't want to be wasting time reading between the lines, okay? So that is not compatible with everybody, all right? Because sometimes that energy can be a little bit too confronting, okay? So the motivation and aggression style of the Gold Coast team is particularly interesting. It's got this kind of go big or go home energy, right? Like it's all or it's fucking nothing, okay? And so there is a tendency with this sort of motivation, which I don't think is that bad of a thing when we're talking about footy, to be a little bit reckless, to sort of sacrifice yourself for the sake of somebody else, and to be quite intuitive. All of those things I think are quite positive. The part that could potentially be the downfall is the escapism tendencies of this motivation style or this aggression style, because the escape tendency tends to be along the lines of not wanting to do work, not wanting to confront something, not wanting to put in. Okay. So where there is this all in, go big, go home, put yourself out there, intuitively understand what everybody's doing kind of energy to them, there is this escapism tendency that would show up in that team dynamic of maybe when they've been pushed a little bit too hard, maybe when they haven't played at their finest, right? Maybe when they're not feeling proud of themselves, we would see this kind of little bit of a lax. I don't really think we've seen it that much this year. So I think they have leaned more into this go big or go home attitude, which I think has a lot to do with Damien Hardwick, but I will get to him a bit later on in the video. So the growth style, now these light blue ones here from here down are very interesting. These are more kind of generational placements. And so because obviously Gold Coast are the newest energy in the AFL, they have some huge differences to some of the older teams, okay? This is one of them. So this growth style, it really values freedom, right? So it values people, it values giving people their freedom, it values, the unique skills of everybody and the talents that everybody has. And it actually doesn't like to have a lot of attention, okay? So the way that it grows forward is literally by lifting up people's unique skills, by lifting up their unique talents within the realm of the footy team, not calling it out. This, we're not putting everything on the front of the newspaper, Western Australia, okay? They will grow their best and they will have their best luck when they continue to value that personal freedom and the unique skills of the individual, okay? The more we see them being pushed to be center of attention, that's when we might see their growth slow down. So, this inner belief system and discipline style can be very challenging for a team that has a lot of fiery energy to it, okay? Because this inner belief system, it is quite critical, right? It is an analyzing sort of inner belief system, and it can highlight a lot of flaws, not just in the game, but also in the whole institution and the individuals, because this inner belief system and discipline style has an eye for detail, and it is a perfectionist style. So, this is the sort of energy of a whole entire team that wants everyone to be able to do the best that they can and be searching for perfectionism. Now, that is another point actually where we might see some escape tendencies come in with that motivation and aggression style, because perfectionism is an impossibility, right? We can never be perfect. We can be the best versions, we can try our hardest, but perfection doesn't really exist because there are too many nuances in humans and the events of our lives. So, any real push to be perfect could lead to that escape tendency of not really wanting to put everything in. But it actually has, for all of its critical eye and its attention to detail and its criticism of others, it actually has a fear of criticism. So any sort of criticism could also lead to that same escape tendency of not really wanting to go hard or go home, go big or go home. Okay. So they will be pushing very hard to do their best job and to not have to face up, right? We don't want attention. We don't want to be criticized. We just want to do what we do. So, how it makes changes, how it evolves and brings revolution to its ranks is, again, it's another emotional and intuitive kind of energy. And it's one that is primarily focused on this understanding that you have to change the inner world of the players in order to change the whole entire vibe. And it gives this focus to emotional and spiritual health. And it tries to really make the changes on that level so that they can play out through the rest of the team. And, it's not the sort of energy that wants to change one or two things. It is a revolutionary kind of energy, and it does want to like rebel against a system. It does want to revolutionize the whole way of doing something versus just changing one or two things, because again, we are changing the internal system of the individuals, the internal belief systems, before we can then change that whole larger picture. And so those two things work together, those two purple ones there, that motivation and aggression style and how they make change work together. Because if we go big or go home and we are changing everything from that rebellious inner world to the outer world, that is most certainly going big or going home. Now, this particular way of making change, there isn't a lot of logic to it, right? So anyone from the outside could be looking at it like it makes no sense, but internally they know exactly what they're doing. So when we look at these past wounds, I think these are particularly interesting as well, right? Because these are the past wounds of feeling too different, of not feeling like you're part of the main group, part of the community, part of the collective, of being the weirdos, right? And this is the kind of energy that I think we have seen with the Gold Coast, okay? Because they're kind of new, they are kind of different. And there's been a number of times when that's even been mentioned, right? Like anywhere from they're in a non-traditional space. Brisbane is for rugby league. What's the point, And even down to when they changed, their home uniform, right? People said it looked strange, that it looked awful, right? That attaches to this past wound of feeling too different, of being, you know, outside of the main collective, which, I mean, they kind of are, right? So the next thing on the list here, their fears and what gives them power. Now, in this energy, this is a grounded kind of energy. This is a very follow the rules type of energy, right? So really, it's very efficient and it is very effective at pursuing its goals, but it will do it on its own time, right? Don't rush me. I need to make sure that I've achieved this one thing before I move on to the next thing. This task needs to happen before I move on to the next task. And that's actually what makes it so powerful, because you can't force it, you can't make it rush. It won't move until it's ready to move, right? So that is a really interesting form of power. And in the archetype of Capricorn in astrology, Capricorn is one of the placements of power. So it does really go there. It is the protector kind of energy. Now, with that, of course, comes this fear of being controlled, fear of being told what to do. And so within the realms of the AFL, that could show itself to be a problem because obviously the AFL has its own internal rules that needs to be followed, whether or not as one club you want to do something different. So, what they are here to learn, and this is juicy, right? So, what they're here to learn and what their future focus is success through individualism, right? And we want to lift up everyone's uniqueness, right? Because lifting up everyone's uniqueness affects the whole team, which affects all of the fan base, which affects the whole collective, okay? Which affects the overall AFL. This particular energy within this future focus, it is very related to success, and that's due to the amount of luck that comes with that, because it is, it's this energy that is quite electric, and it can make anything happen because it sees things from a completely different perspective to anybody else. And so when you lock those two in together, that, what, I'm here to learn and what my future focus is, I can see that from a completely different perspective, and once I'm locked in, I'm very efficient and I'm very effective at getting through everything, right? Now, that past wound can become a problem if there is a lot of judgment around being too different. That could potentially become a problem. But if we are valuing the people for their personal freedom, for their unique skills, then all of these things work together very nicely. Okay. So the more that they do that, the more they are moving towards that future focus. With this success through individualism and uniqueness as a way of a future focus and what they're here to learn, there is a very interesting component to that energy that, there is some kind of expectation, right? There's an expectation around success that they've kind of inherited, right? And I think Gold Coast have come through with that. We've had all of these, you know, um, all of these moments where people have kind of said things like, "Oh, it's not fair because of the way that they got their players, etc., etc." They've also had, you know, was it this year? I think it was this year. It was because it was Damien Hardwick, and it was his partner who came on board, right? So it's kind of like this, oh, I don't know, this nepotism kind of energy has been around them, and that does come with this placement. That comes with this future focus in this Aquarius archetype, where there is this idea around success that comes from something you've inherited. We move down into this comfort zone, this karmic energy, right? This energy from the past. Now, this one is particularly difficult when you are a football team, because this is like you want to please the authorities, right? You want to show off, you want to be praised, you want fame. You inherently know who you are, but you do feel like a stranger, okay? So the way that the karmic energy comfort zone and the here to learn future focus work together with these two is particularly interesting, because it means that its heart and core, it is primed to be this authority pleasing show off. Okay. But because the future focus has to come through individualism and uniqueness, they need to move away from people pleasing and start valuing, which they do through their growth style, this personal freedom, this uniqueness of skills. And so, what they have to overcome, what the karmic energy represents here, what the lessons are, is having to overcome this idea of wanting fame and this idea of not really having to work that hard to get a reward. Okay. That's what the Leo archetype represents here as an energy, right? That, like, I want to please everybody, but the sun revolves around me and I should have the reward, even if I haven't worked that hard. Okay. And what tends to happen with this future focus and this karmic energy comfort zone is we see movement forward, we see success coming forward as we start to move away from this idea of, oh, I should deserve to be praised even for just showing up, right? Which I think you can look at that in this, we're the new team, like everybody kind of coming out and saying like they've gotten all of these things that have made it easier for them, etc., etc. Okay. Now, one thing that I thought was interesting with this karmic energy was, we we see these moments where Damien Hardwick has words about the umpiring, where he's accusing officials of being influenced by emotional moments, right? And, where he's saying that things have been mishandled by the umpiring. And I think that that is really a great example of these two karmic energies and future focus that, like, we're looking at this idea of like, we have this inherited expectation of success that because we've had it so easy with the players that we've gotten and the way that we've been set up, we've got it so easy that we should be able to get to success very easily. And then at the same time, we have Damien Hardwick, who is also a Leo, right? So this comfort zone karmic energy in Leo, he is kind of an energy of the past for them, and this reminder of where they are comfortable really coming out and saying, this isn't fair, this isn't fair, this isn't fair. And that does tend to come with this comfort zone of like, this isn't fair, where's my fairness, right? So when we get to the rejected self, this is like where we sort of feel shameful, where we feel guilty, where we are concerned that we might be misunderstood for the energy that we're showing up in. And in this archetype, it rejects this idea that it works hard enough, right? It's constantly worried about feeling shame for people thinking it doesn't work hard enough. So we can see how that gets lifted up by this, oh, you've had it easy kind of ideal. And so when we start hearing more of that, oh, you've had it easy, you've had it easy, it actually it it actually affects them in a positive way, right? It really locks them into this intense focus on achievement. And it makes them work really hard. There is a detriment to that. You can overwork yourself with this rejected self placement. Um, but it is a placement that needs to be in control and it will fight for control, right? So then the wound placement of being too different, of feeling different from the collective. And so we can see that that's not only the past wound, but that is also the long term wound. All right. So that's the wound we're overcoming in order to find success, right? Which is, I feel different. I'm different. I'm weird. I'm strange. I'm too much. I'm not like everybody else. Okay. So the luck energy here being emotional connection, the trigger point is that hard work and discipline. So there is an interesting journey here, right, for the Gold Coast Suns. So I've talked in the past before about how the Collingwood Football Club, their energetic journey is to take their fan base from this bad boy, wrong side of the tracks kind of vibe into this successful vibe, into this like being able to be the winners without rolling into ego, without, the effects of ego on the success. So this particular team, somewhat similar. However, because they are an Aries energy team, their ego self is in Aries. They identify with their self first. Okay. Part of the energetic journey of the Gold Coast team is to overcome feeling different, feeling like they are on the outside of everybody else, right? And to stop rejecting the idea that they don't work hard enough and to lean more heavily into individualism, into being authentic, into lifting up each of the players, right? And allowing this weird mix of people who know who the fuck they are. Part of the energy of that ego self is an I am energy. And so the journey for the Gold Coast Suns is to find their I am energy by overcoming this wound of belonging, by overcoming this feeling of being different from the rest of the collective. And so, as I always say, the fans that follow the AFL team, the true die-hard long-term relationship fans, are on the energy story with the team. So the fans of the Gold Coast Suns are on an energy story of really overcoming their own wounds of belonging, of really overcoming their own wounds around being seen as people that don't work hard enough, right? You don't work hard enough, you're too weird, you're different from everybody else. And the more that we see the Gold Coast team just going like, sure, fine, we are. We're totally that. And owning it it lifts up so many placements, right? It's their growth style comes into play by overcoming these wounds. They move towards their future. They are learning what they're here to learn, and they move faster towards their future, right? They lock into that hard work and discipline. So the more that they work with that rejected self idea of people thinking we don't work hard enough and being made to feel that we don't work hard enough, and really being able to be intentional about the work that they do and be able to praise themselves for the success that they've achieved, right? Hard work and discipline is the trigger point. They create an emotional connection within the playing team and within the fan base in order to get their best luck, and they overcome these wounds of belonging by continuously lifting up individualism, lifting up uniqueness, and allowing that sort of energy to roll through. So I do want to touch on one more thing before I discuss whether or not this is a great team for Charlie, and that is Damien Hardwick. Now, this is particularly interesting to me, and some of you might also find this juicy. And for those of you Suns followers that have found this, I would like to give you a little bit of fucking hope. Check this out. Now, Damien Hardwick, a Leo, okay? He shares that energy, right, with what it is that the Gold Coast Suns have come from, what their karmic energy is, right? So he understands the energy of the team from a really inherent place, okay? Now, his wounding is a wound of identity, which aligns very much so with the Gold Coast team. And his point of fortune in that Aquarius energy is that same energy of really having to value uniqueness, of seeing things from a different perspective, of doing things differently. One of the things that this point of fortune recognizes is the use of technology, is the use of taking an old way of doing things and bringing it into the new way of doing things. Now, this part is what I thought. I hope you can see that, but I'm going to read through it anyway. Now, Damien Hardwick has been given a 6-year contract, 2024 until 2030. Why is that interesting? Well, one of his coaching achievements is when he coached the Richmond Football Club to 3 flags. Okay. They were in 2017, 2019, and 2020. So in 2017, the eclipse cycles that we were in were the same as what we are currently moving towards right now. So quick little eclipse school is we get a south node, we get a north node. So we get 2 different energies, right? So currently, right now in the universe, the north node is in Pisces and the south node is in Virgo. Now, in 2017, that was the other way around. Okay. So we had the north node in Virgo and the south node in Pisces. So it is the same energy, but it's coming through a slightly different filter. So in 2017, we were moving out of the Virgo Pisces axis into the Leo Aquarius axis, which we'll be doing next year. Flag number 1. Flag number 2 for Damien Hardwick as a coach was in 2019 when we were moving out of the Leo Aquarius axis into the Cancer Capricorn axis, which we will be doing in 2028. When he won his 3rd flag for Richmond, we were moving out of the Cancer Capricorn axis into the Gemini Sagittarius axis, which we will be doing in 2029. And he's there until 2030. So, starting next year until 2030, Damien Hardwick will be given a similar type of energy that he was offered back when he coached Richmond. And he will be given that energy again and be asked, what would you like to do with it this time? Now, the part that is especially interesting is that last time we had this energy, it was the past that was being activated by this Aquarius energy. And it's going to be the future that is going to be activated by the Aquarius energy. And it seems that Mr. Damien Hardwick will be offered a point of fortune in his future. So hold on to that, Gold Coast Suns fans, because I think you got a flag coming in the next few years. And I think we can all see that we are definitely being led to that. The other point that makes me believe that we are being led to that is there's a number of things going on in this energy right now. This particular energy is having a number of activations right now, which I think are very interesting, and why I think next year we will be seeing the Gold Coast Suns getting very close, but not quite getting there. And then in 2027, I think we'll see them get there. They are currently having like some old energy wounds removed from them, right? About their ego, about how they communicate, about their relationship style. Their whole entire energy system is really letting go of things from the past. Now, they need to do that because they have to move more towards this new way of doing things, this new, you know, uniqueness of self, right? So the more that they do that, the closer they get to success. And so when we move to February next year, that is their growth is being activated, their future focus is being activated, and their past wounds are being activated as a method for fuel. Okay? And they are having what we call a nodal return in astrology, which means that we get the North and the South node, Leo and Aquarius, back where they were when this team was founded. And that offers like a shift in the way that you're traveling forward. So at the moment, with the eclipses that we've just had, which I'm sure you heard about on the news, those eclipses for the Gold Coast team have activated their motivation, their aggression, their ability to make change. And it's really allowing them a really clear take responsibility for where you are and figure out what it is you need to learn. And at the end of this month, on the 22nd, we see another eclipse that is going to be activating their inner belief system and their discipline style. So, what they are learning through September and being the first time that they are playing finals is how to best use that motivation and aggression style and how to make these changes by changing their inner belief system, by looking at the details. So, throughout these finals, they are going to be collecting so much information in the positive, what we did well, so much information in the negative, what we could have done better. And we need to be moving away from these people pleasing kind of ideals and moving more into this uniqueness of self from collecting all of this information. So by the time we get to next year, after another off season and then a pre-season, the whole entire Gold Coast Suns energy will be ready to go on this new journey, to go towards its goals, which I think will be a flag in 2027, 2028. So the more that the fans of the Gold Coast Suns accept their weirdness, accept that they're different, and realize that that is a fucking superpower, the faster, the closer we get to the Gold Coast Suns winning a flag. There is a small chance they'll win it this year. Just gonna throw that out there right now. There is a very small chance energy wise, and I have not looked at the breakdown of the individual players. There is a small chance for this year, but given Damien Hardwick's energy story and the likelihood of in the next 2 years for him reaching that energy point where he has won flags before, I think it's a 27-28 situation for the Gold Coast Suns. Now, in relation to Charlie Curnow, let's just do a quick little tap in here at the end. I actually think the Gold Coast Suns would be the perfect team for Charlie because Charlie Curnow is an Aquarius energied person. One of the things about his energy system is that it also values uniqueness of self. And he is a bit of a weirdo. And he is somebody who does lock in and has a lot of hardworking tendencies when he is valued for being a weirdo. Now, he shares the growth style of the Gold Coast Suns. So he also needs to be free. He also needs to have his unique skills and talents used, but he doesn't like a lot of attention, right? And so he shares that with them. Now, he also the way he makes changes is through that same energy of needing to see things from a different perspective, of being unique and weird and different. Okay. But the main component that I think here that really does make this team aligned for Charlie, unfortunately. And I hate that I'm saying that as a Carlton supporter. But Charlie is moving away from this idea of I am, right? So he shares this energy. So the overall ego self communication style and relationship style of the Gold Coast Suns, Charlie shares that as his karmic energy, as his, comfort zone, which is very self-focused. But he's here to learn how to be part of a group. He is here to learn how to be balanced across a team. And he can only do that if he's not being forced to be the center of attention. If what he's being valued for is, in fact, his uniqueness, his weirdness, his skills, right? He needs his freedom. And we all know that when you live in Victoria and you play for the AFL, you do not have a lot of freedom because everybody knows everything all of the time. Now, Charlie is also starting from February next year. He will be starting answering the question to the universe of what sort of a man do you want to be? So the fact that he is starting his journey when the Gold Coast Suns are also being activated to start their journey toward their future focus, their values when it comes to uniqueness, the values around not liking a lot of attention, those things align really beautifully with Charlie. So if he was going to leave, and I'm still not convinced he will, this would probably be the right kind of energy for him to be around, for him to be able to be at his best. Because the eclipses next year for him will also be activating change. They will be activating his growth style. They will be activating his ego self. So, with Charlie on board, with this journey, 27, 28 grand final for Gold Coast. Even without Charlie, I think you've still got that coming. But this could be the team for him. So that is the energy of the Gold Coast Suns. And I've got a little bit of a soft spot for them because any team that has to overcome that wound of being the weirdo is a team that I'm going to vibe with. So I wish them all the best. I can't wait to see how they go the next few weeks. And yeah, the Suns for a flag 2027, 2028. Write that down. Stay weird.